Most people think that AI is coming for jobs, but that's not where the impact begins. AI isn't eliminating employment first. It's eliminating relevance first. You don't lose your job first. You lose your necessity. And that shift happens quietly, long before anyone notices. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. I'm Thomas Schmidt, and I've spent over 3 decades as a technology and business executive, including roles as COO, CMO, VP product, leading teams through multiple industry and technology disruptions. Now, as a consultant, I work with organizations to optimize how they manage technology, streamline operations, and sharpen both their marketing and product strategies. But I also help mid-career professionals reinvent their careers for what's coming next. And that's why I make these videos, to give you practical insights that help you stay relevant, competitive, and excited about your future. Okay, let's get into it. Artificial intelligence is not targeting job titles. It's targeting types of contribution. Entire categories of work are already becoming unnecessary, not because they're not important, but because they're replicable. The first wave of irrelevance won't show up as layoffs. It'll show up as becoming less consulted, less central, less depended on. Still employed, just no longer essential. And for a growing number of mid or late career professionals, that process has already begun. AI is replacing functions, not positions. It's absorbing the parts of work that are predictable, repeatable, linear, procedural, or easily expressed as logic. So if most of your contribution can be described as organizing, formatting, reviewing, summarizing, transferring, coordinating, tracking, or relaying information, AI doesn't need to take your role. It only needs to take your function. And once the function moves, the role follows. There are 3 types of contribution disappearing first. Support work, where you help others perform, but you don't originate value. Transfer work, where you move information rather than create it. Translation work, where you convert someone else's direction into output. AI does not need to outperform excellence. It only needs to outperform the average. And in functional tasks, it already does. This means that the earliest people affected aren't the underperformers. They're the predictable ones, the steady ones, the reliable ones, the professionals whose value lives in consistency and stability. Because for decades, stability was protection. And in the AI era, stability is vulnerability. Anything consistent can be automated. The danger is that irrelevance does not appear as a threat. It appears as a shift in dependency. Not you're no longer needed, but we just don't need you as much. The organization doesn't remove you. It simply stops depending on you. You're still trusted, but no longer pivotal. Still present, but no longer structural. The shift looks different depending on the role. If you're in administrative or coordination work, you get copied after decisions instead of before them. If you're in management or leadership support, people begin going directly to decision makers instead of through you. And if you're in analysis or reporting, your work becomes reference material, not direction-setting input. And if you're in project oversight, you're updated but not consulted for movement. And if you're in operations, workflow begins evolving without requiring your historical knowledge. Nothing bad happens, you simply stop being central to motion. And here's where most people miss the turning point. You don't notice the shift because nothing looks wrong from the outside. Your calendar is still full, your title is still intact, and the tone around you is still respectful. You're still included, you're just no longer needed. Meetings still happen, but the outcome no longer depends on you. People still ask you for your perspective, but only to confirm what has already been decided. You're still copied, but after direction is already set. You're involved enough to stay visible, but not early enough to stay essential. And it doesn't feel like a threat. It actually feels like a relief. Less urgency, fewer decisions, less escalation. You tell yourself, no, they're becoming more independent. They don't need as much from me anymore. But what's actually happened underneath is this. They've learned to operate without you. Not intentionally, not maliciously, but simply structurally. And this is how irrelevance happens. Not with exclusion, but with detachment from dependency. The beginning of irrelevance feels like things are just finally calming down. You interpret that as progress. The organization interprets it as the system runs now without you. And that's the first stage of professional erosion. Before relevance disappears externally, it dissolves internally. You don't get replaced in a single moment. You get replaced in stages. At first, the organization still prefers you, but it no longer requires you. Then it still invites you, but it no longer relies on you. Then it still includes you, but only out of habit. Nothing looks like it's slipping, but your contribution is no longer structural to the outcome. And once a system sees it can function without your involvement, it stops building around you. Dependency fades quietly, long before relevance disappears visibly. And because there's no negative signal, no warning to react to, people don't even realize anything has changed. They think things are working smoothly. But what's actually happening is the system has discovered that it doesn't need you to operate anymore. And most people don't recognize the shift until they reach a moment not visible externally, but unmistakable internally, where they realize the organization still values them, but no longer depends on them. There's always a moment, a quiet one, where you shift from being needed to being merely available. And it doesn't feel like a loss. It feels like being kept in the loop. It doesn't feel like exclusion. Rather, it feels like, oh, they've got it covered. It doesn't feel like a demotion. It feels like, oh, they're more self-sufficient now. But that's the moment that gravity moves. That's when relevance begins slipping beneath visibly. You're still included, but inclusion is not dependency. You're still respected, but respect is not relevance. You're still appreciated, but appreciation is not necessity. This is why irrelevance arrives silently. People don't notice it until they're already in phase 2. Present, but no longer pivotal. Visible, but no longer central. Trusted, but no longer needed. And by the time you feel this erosion, you're not beginning to fade. You're already deep into the fade. Because relevance doesn't vanish in a moment of crisis. It dissolves in a period of non-dependence. And this is the part that leads directly to the second shock. The part almost no one is ready for. The next stage isn't about roles becoming irrelevant. It's about people who assume that being good at their job means that they're safe. The professionals who believe that they're insulated by competence will be the first ones blindsided next. Not because they're lacking, but because AI replaces predictability before anything else. And the people who pride themselves on consistency are the most predictable of all. In the next video, I'm going to uncover the second layer. Being good at your job won't protect you from AI, because in the AI era, competence isn't insulation anymore. It's evidence that you're easy to model. If this gave you a new perspective, please hit that like button and share it with a friend who's feeling uncertain about the future of tech. And of course, subscribe for more weekly insights on how to grow, evolve, and future-proof your career in the age of AI. Until next time, keep growing, keep learning, and keep showing the world that your best work is still ahead of you. And I'll see you in the next one.